You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Innovation Fuel, a business podcast by University Canada West.
Bringing you fantastic stories from accomplished entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. Let's explore the entrepreneurial world through local businesses and our university community.
Good afternoon, Dave. How are you today?
Oh, always great, Gelareh, especially when I get to spend some time with you. During the pandemic, do you remember Dr. Bonnie Henry?
Bonnie Henry's shoes?
Yeah, Bonnie Henry's shoes. Do you remember those? They were so cool.
I watched her everyday news that she was out, and I was looking at her shoes and see that, okay, what color she's using, what's the style she's using, because I think that she has a very fantastic sense of fashion. I really like that shoes. And I think that's, as you know, that I'm immigrant, and I think that Vancouver has changed a lot from the time 2004 till now. People are, you can see, stylish, more care about fashions, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful change I can see, at least in Vancouver. This is great things to see.
But you're also seeing unique fashion and more we consider more niche fashion versus mass fashion. It's not like these shoes are, everybody's wearing them. They are cool and they're interesting.
You know what's in Italy? People say particolare. They want to be unique. And so maybe they don't buy a lot of mass fashions, branded brands, but they try, and there's a lot of small boutiques everywhere. Then you can go and shop around. There's our handmade, beautiful stuff. I think that we have Vancouver brand fashion icon that we can talk about them. Who is the guest today, Dave?
Oh my God, who's the guest today? Well, we have Stephen, and Stephen is from Fluvog. And Fluvog has been a Vancouver icon for many, many years. And we're here. Welcome, Stephen. Welcome to Innovation Fuel.
Thanks so much for having me. Beautiful sunny day in Vancouver. I'll give you a little bit of background. I mention this only because I do think it's relevant. I moved around a lot as a kid and went to a different school every year until grade 8, which pushed me into marketing at a young age. I feel like that's relevant to where I am now because it's you have to experience all these different cultures and different people and be adaptable to different situations. So I feel like that's one thing that I benefited from. I did an undergrad in philosophy and psychology at UVic. I did an MBA at McGill. In between those times, I did a fair amount of traveling and working overseas. After McGill, I came out to Vancouver and worked at Cassette in their youth marketing division, which was great fun and a great experience. And we did some campaigns for Van City and Bell and Nintendo. And that was just an incredible learning experience there. And then after that, I went to John Fluvog Shoes. I'd been meeting with John on occasion, having the odd lunch every now and then something opened up. And I've been there for 18 years.
That's awesome. So explain about the Fluvog. I know that a lot of people may know, but
what did I write down? I was just talking to a copywriter the other day, and I wrote down a note here I was thinking about a headline that said something like, have you heard of John Fluvog Shoes? We're not famous. So I think, a couple of lines come to mind. One is that Fluvog shoes are everywhere, but they're not for everyone.
Yes.
They're very much an acquired taste. Dear, wonderful friend of mine come in the other day. She loves the store. She loves the brand. Very fashionable woman. And she asked me, so people actually buy these shoes, though? And she meant no disrespect from it about it, and they're not for her. But, we kind of take that as a compliment. I think that it's a very niche product with a niche audience. One of our lines is unique souls for unique souls, and we really stand by that. I think that, in this day and age, especially, having such a niche product is really advantageous, but it's also really difficult. I mean, there's no easy in business, but if you have something that appeals to everybody, well, now that's going to be a huge battle competing against kind of gaggle of other businesses out there that also appeal to everybody. But if you appeal to very specific people that are hard to define, you have a chance to build a beautiful community of people who are dedicated to that brand, but they're very hard to find. Not everybody is drawn to bright pink polka dots on an hourglass heel. That's not, it can be difficult. And, recently I've I've been there for so long, we go through these kinds of lenses of how to see the brand and how to interpret it and how to present it. But some people would never be caught dead wearing a pair of Fluvogs. Other people feel like it is the main driver of their visual identity out there. Like even the boots that I'm wearing right now, they're pretty intense, and people use, we all do this. We all use material goods to kind of signal and identify who we are. So I think for some people, they are very, very special. And we really work hard to not kind of spoil that, and to help facilitate that specialty of the product and of the community as a whole.
I want to build on that because I think what we talk about is you're kind of leaning into the storytelling element and towards a niche element, which we see a lot of things now post-COVID moving into that niche market. We've seen where customers are profitable, what customers are not profitable. Where should we be building our community element? And so when we move into that world of post-COVID, how does John Fluvog and you, Stephen, keep true to that story? How do you keep true to the brand and how building that community now that maybe the bricks and mortar store gets a little bit less convenient and the online presence becomes that?
Well, I think, we're very spoiled in that we have 53 years of goodwill, and, trying to keep the voice consistent during that time is really key, in my opinion. I feel like the shoes change all the time. We had a window on all the stores once that said making mistakes since 1970, and then we put it in the windows backwards. And that really came from the fact that we were acknowledging that we do a lot of things that are not the traditional way of running business, that are not the traditional way of running a shoe business. The reason I say that is because, most of our shoes will make 300 pairs in a particular style and color. Now, when you split that between sizes and 25 stores, there's probably one pair in your size of this shoe in this city. Mm-hmm. So that is a very inefficient way of making a product for sure, and marketing a product. Consistency of voice is so important because that product changes so much in our case, right? I think if you're making Oreos, okay, well now everybody knows what they're getting with an Oreo. It's not changing at all. The packaging changes every year. The messaging, the jokes, the themes, all of that stuff, that must be a huge operation of trying to stay relevant all the time with one item that does not change. I think for us, we change that product a lot. We have to make sure that the brand that is kind of the brand that I'm not sure what I'm doing with my hands, but it's like the bubble that product lives in has to be consistent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the desire to go more profitable, to drive more profit, is not the urge to say, hey, can we step out of that unique element and say, can we do multiple lines of this element? Can we do lots more and get them out to market and use different tools like online to get them to market?
Yeah, I think that, we are not averse to making money. We have to remind ourselves all the time that we absolutely do have to sell product and to stay profitable to exist. But the difference at Fluvog from other places that I've been is the cultural relevance, according to us, is very, very important. The artistic project, according to John, is the most important, right? So he just loves to come up with ideas and express those ideas. And so, yes, fundamentally, we have to stay in business in order to facilitate this art project, this culture project, this design project that exists. But once we're here, we're guilty of not always taking the most profitable road forward. Like I see this all the time with customers as well. And even at this table, like that's a beautiful story, right? And it sets us apart, which is great. And it gives us the opportunity to connect with people in a way that is maybe not scalable. Yeah. Like we're living in a world where scalable is like the go-to word. Like I love the idea, but is it scalable? And it's like, not everything is going to be scalable. Some of it has to be, of course. But anyway, so we live in that kind of middle zone, which again is very difficult to live in because on the one hand, you can't stop selling the shoes, which means you have to have salespeople who, as focused as they are at building relationships and and really just caring for people and being humans, they also have to convert, right? Mm-hmm. It's a really tricky spot to be, but all businesses have tricky spots.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I want to see that what is the challenges just for organization, not just for marketing side of it, that you have a unique product which is not scalable and you don't want it to be scalable. What are the challenges the organization is facing?
I mean, that's a loaded question and a good one, but I think if you're producing so many styles and so many SKUs, mm-hmm. that's really attractive to a lot of people. It's very confusing to a lot of people, right? So, if we're making 4 pumps in 3 colors each, and they're very, very similar, and then we got a couple of booties and a couple of knee-high boots, yeah. right? Yeah. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're in the same kind of last shape. Then we can find who's going to love that and really, really push that button on retargeting, digital advertising. We can do influencer marketing. We can do all of these things, but we can really hone in on who that customer is.
Right.
When we talk about challenges at Fluvog, just from an overall business perspective, we talked about economies of scale. So producing like small numbers of all those pieces, mm-hmm. even if you do find a bestseller home run that knocks it out of the park, because of the beautiful like family-run factories that we use in Portugal, they are not enormous. They cannot cookie cutter something immediately and produce 1,000 more pairs because the blue sneaker that was $249 has flown out the door, and we need to repeat on it as fast as possible. That's not coming in 3 weeks, and many of those times that's coming at the end of the season. It's just not going to work, right? We still have to adhere to those seasonal, textbook guidelines that exist because of the way that the sun and the planets move and the way that we've all been trained to shop and consume.
When you are in Europe, you can see a lot of this kind of type of product, particular products.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And you can see the society is used to have it, and they are looking for something particular rather than something in the mass production. But here in Canada, it's a little bit different. So what do you think about it? The society is looking for something particular or more like me, same as others?
So society in general? Yeah, I think, the first thing that comes to mind is the long tail, of course, yep. right? So yep. Now if you want something, you can get it. Although I just bought this tiny pencil and I can't find the substitute or the replacement erasers because it's a tiny eraser on a tiny pencil. Yeah. So it's not always easy, right? But it's easier than it was before we had online shopping and we could access every store everywhere in the world. I will keep you posted on the tiny eraser. But I think the long tail comes to mind. I'm not so sure that that we can really carve it up by continents or countries or ages or generations or socioeconomic status anymore. I really don't think that's it. I don't know what is it, but we've always, it's kind of an embarrassing term, psychographics, to use now. But when I started using it, it was super cool. And nobody was using it, but we use that. We've used that at Fluvog in the past, because when you come to an event at Fluvog, or like we have Flumunity Fest once a year, and that's where we gather a bunch of Fluvoggers, have a big kind of conference day. It's great fun. You will see the diversity in that room. Now, there are probably threads through there that work, right? We've kind of found that people are, they really value unique identity. They really value self-expression, artistic expression.
So the evolution now, like you're moving into, we go past the element of post-COVID. You've been successful in getting into bricks and mortar stores across multiple jurisdictions, and you've gone into the world of, let's say, e-commerce. And how has the model changed, going from a bricks and mortar where you have that personal experience that you said that sales associates building that relationship? Now, how do you build the same relationship with the leveraging of all these new technologies that are coming to play?
I think a big part of that is that our stores and our Fluvogologists, as we call them, at the store level, are highly involved in the processing of those web orders and the connection with this customer. Here's another thing that's not scalable. When you buy something online, first of all, it's fulfilled from one of our stores. We don't have a warehouse. That would be great. Yeah. But part of our issue is that we have so few pairs of each individual style that if we start putting them in a warehouse, we're not going to have enough for the stores. And we can't afford to make more of them, or we we can't afford, and I mean that in the bigger picture of things, not just financially, because we need the space to carry more diverse arrangements, right? Yeah. So going back to that, talking about something that's also not scalable, when you buy a pair of shoes online, you can check a box that answers the question whether or not you're confident about your sizing here. Because of course, returns are a real expense to corporations for e-commerce, and we try to reduce that. So you check that box. That means that somebody from a store is going to call you or email you and talk to you about what shoes you normally wear. Have you worn Fluvogs before? These fit a little bit wide, a little bit narrow, blah, blah, blah. That takes days, trying to nail somebody down on that. Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's not the most efficient way of doing it, but I will tell you that our return rate for e-commerce is about 7%. Now, for shoes in general, it's usually about 25%. So, that's success. At the same time, you've got a human connection now with somebody who's worked in the store for 10 years. Yeah. They know the product so well. I mean, talk about, another issue is that when you make such a wide array of styles, you use a ton of different lasts. All those lasts are the thing that the shoe is, the material is wrapped around to shape the shoe. We use so many different lasts on the floor there that they actually all fit a little differently. So unfortunately, if you're a size 8 in this style, you might be a size 9 in that style. You may be a size 8, but you don't know. So it's tricky, and that's why that's on there. People who have a lot of pairs of Fluvogs, they know because they wear a number of different families, as we say. But that's where the human element is still involved. And yes, we have online chat help, and yes, we have video chat help. Again, those are run by humans for us, so that still has an element of authenticity and humanity behind it, and it builds relationships. So that's great. But yeah, beyond that, it is pretty difficult, especially when people don't read. I mean, it's funny because oftentimes business owners and marketers, anybody who has a customer talks about the customer as though they are this other entity, whereas you really just need to look at your own activity, right? And so, even my most loved brands, when newsletters come into me, how often am I reading that copy? How often am I looking at the picture? And if I like it, I click it. If I don't, I don't. There are these elements where we are also, we always try to add an element of kind of tongue-in-cheek and sometimes romance and whatever it is around the copy as well. It's hard to ask your customer to come and do this work so that you can be more human to them, right? Yeah. There's other elements, like I said, with phoning the stores and things like that, where there is an interaction, but you can't count on people, and I can't count on myself to read the stuff that the brand that I love or the organization that I love is talking to me. It's a lot of work. We don't have much time.
So it means, to my understanding, the user experience or customer experience in your company is a really different from other fashion or fast fashion companies, for sure. I feel that you're working on the loyalty of the customers a lot here, right? That it really depends on the loyalty of customers. Yeah. So do you have some sort of kind of rate? That means the loyalty of customers, how long they've been with you?
We were one of the first footwear companies to get into e-commerce. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, we have continued to build this custom-built site. I mean, we've joked about the fact that we work with a great developer who has been with us this whole time and continues to make adjustments to our back end, to our e-commerce platform. And then we work with a very small POS operation that's actually BC based, which is great. All these things are great. It makes it really flexible. We can do all these different things. The difference is that we can't do everything. So while we've made many advancements with this custom built platform, I think part of the issue with being so flexible and adapting so quickly, but when you have limited, let's call it, time and energy and financial resources to build something like your version of Shopify, you can't end up building your version of Shopify. So this is a very long, boring way of saying that we aren't great at that. We don't track our best customers. We don't have a rewards or a loyalty program. We've talked about it a lot. I think that our issue is if I was going to predict the next 5 years, I would say that we will probably at some point move to a platform that's out of the box, which is a phrase that makes it sound like everything's easy, which is not. So we would move to that. We would probably implement at some point a loyalty program. I think trying to stay true to the brand and trying to keep that humanness about it means that we have been very cautious not to jump into a point system that is similar to everybody else's point system. This is a tricky one. I'm really torn on it because I do think loyalty programs work very, very well. I just don't know at what cost. And when I say cost, we were talking about business cases before. I think it's very easy to not look at the subtle costs that you don't know what the change is going to be in the future. So you say loyalty program, points, drives loyalty. We're seeing people buy quicker and smaller items to add up their points to get to a point where they get another reward or another thing. That's great. Now, what are the other 4 things that changed? Oh, it turns out that people are returning more, or people are buying things they don't need. I mean, we also, as businesses, have a responsibility to the environment as well, right? So we've for a long time, we've had this kind of mantra of buy better, buy less. And we were also the first footwear company to do, we started something which was 15 years ago probably now, which is called the Flu Market, which allows you to sell your gently used Fluvogs to other Fluvoggers. We don't take any money for it. It's on our site. And what we noticed is traffic increased, and actually web e-commerce purchases of new product increased at the same time. It also showcases the longevity of the product, but where it was really driven from was a bit of the guilt of producing things and seeing people buy multiple pairs of things that they didn't necessarily need. And we knew that in people's closets, there were these beautiful, gorgeous Fluvogs with feeling that had not experienced the outside in a while. And we wanted to give them a path to go to somebody else and enjoy life the way that they were intended to. Sounds a little bit silly, but it's been very effective. Anyway, going back to, that was a loyalty question. There's a strange answer. Okay.
But what's really interesting, Gelareh, and listen to Stephen speak it, because I think, a lot of it comes back to storytelling, building the brand, building the brand values, and you're staying true to the brand values, even when you're coming into the world of online. Yes, the accessibility, that in-person experience is important to the value of that brand. And how do you maintain that? Now, yes, we have artificial intelligence that's coming down the pathway. Stephen, I'm sure you're thinking about these elements, but how do you maintain that personality with artificial intelligence? And how do you leverage these tools to support that brand message and that brand value?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the short answer is that artificial intelligence will be great at facilitating creative thought. It will cut down time in producing, whether it's basically any kind of content. At this point, you still need humans to be able to start those dialogues, to start those brainstorming sessions. It helps with kind of laying out strategy. It, of course, if you can perfect your ask, your want from AI, and if you're doing it in a space that has the tools available to you, it's going to be very advantageous, and it's really going to enhance creativity. I think when you talk about the human side of it, there was I remember reading about when I can't remember the name of whatever show this was that was at Disney World or Disneyland, whichever one it was. And they were building the animatronics of this world where customers would walk through and they would see this and they'd see that. It's like, oh my God, think of Small World or something, right? It's a Small World after all. And apparently when Walt saw it, he was concerned because the birds in the background weren't breathing, and that real birds breathe. And the answers from the technicians and engineers were like, there is so much going on in this space, nobody's going to notice whether the birds are breathing or not. And his answer to that was that people can sense perfection, and that basically leads to the fact that people can sense imperfection and falsehoods. Right? I do think that over time we've already gotten incredibly good at identifying and being able to see when advertising and marketing is not true or not authentic or not real. And I think we are going to adapt to be able to see that more and more clearly as we move on. And as we experience more garbage that is cheap, fast, and inauthentic. So our radars will heighten, right? So I do think that that's one thing that's going to happen. I think now to move off your question and look at where AI is going to take things from a marketing perspective, I think what we're going to see is, the perfect imagery matched with the perfect content copy matched with the perfect place and the perfect time for you.
Yeah.
And that may be that even the person that is speaking to you in an ad off the side of your computer or on your phone actually looks and sounds like you too. And the research that will come from this also, human behavior is going to become more and more predictable, which is going to drive more effective advertising. Honestly, humans and marketers, we just have a history of ruining things, right? Like TV was amazing, we ruined that. The internet was amazing, we ruined that. Text messaging was amazing, we ruined that. Social media was amazing, we ruined that. We just ruined everything. And then people just look at email inboxes now, right? Like we have to have a whole system that takes out the garbage, right? And the garbage is most of the stuff that comes in. Like it's a terrible track record. But over time, as the awareness and as the behavior becomes more heightened, it's going to cut through. And it's not necessarily going to be inauthentic. Mm-hmm. It is going to be highly targeted. With things like cookies disappearing, the substitute for cookies is now going to be groups of random, unidentified people who have special interests. Mm-hmm. Great. It's like an anonymous cookie option, right? Many marketers will be panicked about that because the cookies being gone. The focus of those groups is going to be so heightened that your retargeting system is going to be the same. Like it's going to be as good. Yeah. It's almost like, not to be pessimistic, but it's almost like, waving a flag that we don't believe, like we believe in privacy and we're going to take away cookies is being touted by people who know that that's going to be substituted with something else. So you get the goodwill of being like, we're on the privacy train, but in reality, they already know that that's got to be substituted with these other things. I don't know if that, anyway, yeah.
I absolutely love it. Stephen, the conversation has been absolutely amazing. I know that we could go on forever and ever, my friend, but we have to ask you a challenge that you can throw out to our students that are listening to this podcast. What should they be thinking about?
Well, I actually think that, the humanness of brands, if there's one thing that we keep learning more about, it's that you trust the reviews on a website. Those are from anonymous people, and whether they're real or not, we still trust them more. We trust human face-to-face, whether it's a presenter at a conference, more than we do with those reviews. And we trust friends and family more than we trust humans. So the trust level of things is going to be paramount in marketing moving forward. And so brands will have to really, really make sure that they earn trust and then they maintain that trust. Because you can have as much attention that you can garner, but if you don't have trust with it, it's just not going to cut it. At least not in the long term. I think thinking long term, trust is going to be a major focus for brands. And I think figuring out a way to maintain that humanness moving forward, where technology is just advancing and accelerating so quickly. Like we underestimate the impact that something like AI is going to do or is going to have on our lives. We underestimated the internet when it came. It was pretty unremarkable when it first arrived, right? Emails were amazing. I sent it from here to there. That was great. Images take forever to load. We were like, I don't know why we're all so concerned with this. It's going to be fine. But cell phones we used to use primarily as a talking device, as phones. When smartphones came out, we used it for 10 minutes, and now we use it for 4 hours a day. We really do underestimate these technological advancements, and AI is going to be no different. So I think just allowing yourself to give some thought to how these things could change in the future, and even coming up with 3 or 4 different scenarios about how AI can change the thing that you are interested in, and then really exploring those 4 options. One of them is going to be mostly right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Dave, for another episode of Innovation Fuel.
Thanks so much. It was great fun.
Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.